I've never met anybody really famous, but I guess my closest thing to fame was flying in the former private jet of John Travolta, which might sound super exotic, but actually it was an aid worker flight over the skies of Somalia back in 2002. And I got a job working for an aid agency in Hargeisa in Somaliland, and we had the flight. And it was called the most exotic plane in the fleet, and the only reason for that was that it was the only plane that flew in Somalia for the aid workers which had a toilet. And it didn't really feel very exotic because on the first flight we stopped in a place called Baidoa, which I remember only had a cholera camp. There was a sign for a cholera camp there. It was a fairly forbidden place. And as we took off we dropped some aid workers there. We took off then to go to Hargeisa, and I was looking out the window and I saw this smoke coming out of the wing, and I thought that's probably not the John Travolta way. So I called over the stewardess, because we had a stewardess, which was another luxury, and she then immediately closed all the curtains, and then we went back to Baidoa, and we landed on this airstrip. There were a couple of camels walking by. There were a couple of 4x4 cars with mounted machine guns on the front, and that was it. And we were informed that there was a problem with the plane, and we had to come back at 11 o'clock in the morning, which was fine, except I was then expecting to be taken to the nearest 4-star hotel for the night, and they said, no, sorry, we don't have any accommodation for you. We are a point-to-point airline. So there we were, stuck in the middle of the desert in Somalia with just a couple of camels to talk to and a couple of guys with machine guns pointed at us. And unfortunately, one of the other aid agencies had an office there, so we were allowed to go there. So we went there and we stayed in their compound, and it was great. And I was full of the buzz. I'm in southern Somalia. This is like an adrenaline thing, and I thought, how dangerous can it be? So I decided to go for a walk just to breathe the air and to get out there. And I left all my belongings in the thing, and I went out. And I promised myself I'd walk no further than 20 meters, which I didn't. And after 10 meters, there was this group of kids, and they were playing football. And they looked at me and they were like, "Hey, white man, give me money, give me money." And I said, no money, just football. And so we started playing football. It was a fantastic thing where you have that connection between local people, local kids, and there's just that human connection. It was fantastic. And we were playing, and everything was great. And after a while, what happened was I became the point person, so everybody was kicking the ball to me, and I was kicking it up and around. I'm not very good at football, and once there was a passing Somali militia truck with machine guns as well, and I almost hit them, and that could have been dangerous. But there was this one kid who was about 12, and he was really skillful, and he crossed the ball, and it was kind of coming up here, and so I decided to be really flashy, and I jumped up and I chested it, and I volleyed it back to him, and it was a really spectacular move. Except when I landed on my ankle, and my ankle went to the side, and I was in absolute agony. And everybody was laughing at me because obviously in Somalia, pain doesn't exist. And if you show pain, then you're not really a Somali. And I was obviously very soft. And the size of my ankle was about this big. And so I managed to hobble back, and there was a bit of blood, and there was my white shirt was covered in sand and dust and everything, and I looked terrible, even worse than I do today. And I got back to the compound, and the security guard came out with his Kalashnikov, and he was going to shoot everybody. And I was like, no, it's all fine. I just fell over. And then he got this really disconcerting little sort of motion of which through translation I meant that he had a razor blade, and he could just chop my little ankle and it'll all be fine. And I was like, honestly, I don't need that. And so we found some ice from somewhere, and that was it. And then the next day, we were told that John Travolta's plane had been permanently retired, and that was the last flight it ever made. And that's as close as I ever got to meeting somebody famous. And I don't think I want to meet people famous after that.